Hey everybody, Roxabox90 here with a Cons of Tarkir speculation video. So I just read a recent article by Marrow where he talked about how M14 had certain almost prophetic themes of what was to come in Theros. If you guys remember, we had cards like Blightcaster, which had enchantment interaction, and cards like Ajani's Chosen, also intense enchantment interaction and auras. And then Oath of the Ancient Wood also, and other cards as well, all in M14 before Theros came, which means that he is alluding to the fact that in M15 we're going to have a little bit of a taste of what may be mechanic-wise. Not all the mechanics, there will be some new ones I'm sure, but at least some of the mechanics that will be in M15 or related to M15 that will be in Cons of Tarkir. So the first one I think is interesting and may likely be something is this mechanic or something similar to whenever you attack with two or more creatures, draw a card. So if you guys remember, we had cards in M13 which use the Exalted mechanic, which is whenever one creature attacks alone, then it gets a boost up for that. Now, when you're attacking alone, that is an interesting mechanic. I've always found it to be generally a little awkward because you're putting all your eggs in one basket. And that mechanic did not continue after M13 in the sets that followed, which maybe can give a little bit of an illusion of what's going to go on here. Nothing may come of a mechanic that seems to encourage a lot of attacking, but that being said, we do have the mechanic Convoke, which I think also could be a mechanic that is brought into Cons of Tarkir, because it seems like there, at least from the imagery we have so far, you have a bunch of guys, like almost a team lined up, and I think a mechanic that relies on attacking with lots of guys versus attacking with one guy would be really interesting as a mechanic, and I think they can make it work, especially if they tie it together with Convoke, which relies on you using lots of little guys in order to make things cheaper and more effective. And I think having both of those in the core set makes it fairly likely they're going to have some sort of mechanic based on using lots of guys. Whether it's military intelligence style or Convoke or both, who knows. I think it would be interesting because it would give us a clan feel, which Cons of Tarkir seems to be built on, these clans, that groups of people who in a tribe who work together, almost tribal, but it's not necessarily based on who they are, elves, goblins, but more on their tribe of a certain group. So I think that was one area that may potentially be a mechanic. Another mechanic possibility is relating to walls. This one I really hope is not, because walls tend to be boring. Whenever they've tried to make them useful or interesting, they tend not to work. But we do have cards like Siege Dragon in M15, which has destroy all walls your opponents control. And having a wall flavor, we have a number of walls in the set of wall-related things that they're playing with, which means they could have something wall-related. Maybe walls that can switch into attack, walls that if you have multiple walls, they all get better. There's a number of ways to play around with walls. I personally don't think it would be interesting, but you never know. That could be another one that they are maybe going to work with. Another thing I was thinking about was these sort of cards. At the beginning of each upkeep, if you lost life last turn, or if your opponent lost life last turn, something happens. Now these sort of effects are weird and may not potentially be super strong unless you have things that do damage to players, pingers, or things of that nature. But I think that a mechanic that has if life is lost last turn, or either your opponent or you is losing life and something happens as a result, it's an interesting way to work, especially if it's every upkeep, because that would make where if your opponent attacks you on their turn, or if you take damage from a burn spell swing on your turn, either way you're benefiting. An interesting mechanic. I'm not quite sure about this one, but there are a couple of cards that use it, and so I think that that's another option. And the last one I was noticing was the artifact theme. Why we have artifact or artifact tied with Convoke, but really why we have so many artifact related. It could just be a mini sub-theme in M15 and that's that. But also it could be something artifact related in Cons of Tarkir. Not obviously a full theme because Cons of Tarkir is not an artifact plane, and I hope they wouldn't extend it from New Phyrexia. Mirrodin seems to be where artifacts are based. But it could be a sub-theme, because we have cards like Chief Engineer and Kirkesh who are really doing interesting, weird things with artifacts. So those are a number of mechanics that I think could show an appearance or maybe overlap in the coming Khans of Tarkir set. So I'd love to hear what you guys think about these mechanics in the comment section. Do you agree, disagree? Do you have any other thoughts about how M15 reflects on Khans of Tarkir? I'd love to hear it all down below in the comment section. If you enjoyed the video, tap the like button, and if you're new to the channel, check it and subscribe. As always, Rockstarbox90 signing out. See you guys next time.